Well, all right, here we are. It's bright and early, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for participating in our glorious foray to these workshops. We did one about a month ago, kind of with 72 hours notice, and it was so fun. We're like, let's do it right. Yeah. And so we're still experimenting with this format, but it's fun to bring Toby down, and we appreciate your support for this thing. And we're going to have some fun today talking about this Manifesto, which is just 12 bullet points of things with some, and I'm going to go into each one and kind of extrapolate on each one of these things. And it's good, clean fun. So first and foremost, we're just going to play a little shuffle tune, and I'm going to mess around with a few of these different ideas, and then we shall discuss. Can you dig it? All right, here we go. This is the first tune we ever played together was a little thing called Toby Arrives, which is just a little shuffle in G, and I improvised the head on the spot, and I still kind of do that. There's a basic template of what I do. Usually kind of mess around with a little bit of noodlery in the first 12 bars, and then I go into the head like twice through, but the head always changes. Head meaning, of course, the melody, as they say in jazz world. Play the head, man. Play the head. All right, here we go. A one, a two, a one, ha, ha. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much. I see the questions out there. My buddy Tom over in Liverpool, I believe, he's asking if you can change cameras. No, we do that from here. I've got a foot thing, but Ryan is also a foot thing. I've got a pedal that changes the cameras, but also Ryan, who's the ghost in the machine on our computer, who's out in Massachusetts, even though we are here in beautiful Milwaukee. I also see that you guys are getting commercials. They shouldn't be getting commercials.
No, they should not be getting commercials.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why that's happening.
They absolutely should not be getting
But that's not on our end. So sorry about that, folks.
I mean, I turned monetization off, so there shouldn't be any.
Monetization has been turned off, so there should be no commercials on that end. Okay, so I don't know why that's happening, but sorry about that. Hey, let's talk a little bit about. Yes, I remember, Tom, you did name the little gristle lamp. I remember that whole hullabaloo, which was actually something that was kind of the last straw for me with caulk amplifiers, but we'll get into that another time. Lord have mercy, I apologize for that whole mess. That was a bit of uncool, if you know what I'm saying. Listen, I'm going to talk a little bit about this manifesto thing. And I came up with 12 little bullet points. Dylan and I were talking about, I was like, what should we base this next workshop on? And he's like, well, it's always nice to give people a little something to make it worth their while, to have something to take away from it and just kind of gestate on. And so, I don't think he used the word gestate, but I just did. And anyhow, so we called it the Improvisation Manifesto, and I specifically kind of avoided theory stuff. Not that we can't speak about that now if you guys have questions on what I'm doing in regard to how I look at the fretboard and all that kind of stuff. But this is more of an attitudinal thing. And the very first one is something I talk about all the damn time to folks. And it's the idea of what you just played should dictate what comes next. And what I mean by that, and I was really trying to point that out in this improvisation that we just did over that blues tune, is that it doesn't have to be blatant call and response, although sometimes it is. But more of the time, it's kind of a motif. So you play a motif, and you kind of respond to it. And it's one of those things where it could be a sound, like it's a pinch harmonica thing. I'm going to play on the bridge pickup. Maybe I'll start with the whammy bar. It can be any number of different things that kind of set the tone. But what you're doing is you're always responding to what you just played. And if you do that, you're not playing just licks. You know what I'm saying? So for instance, if we do let's just do a quick 12-bar in G, and I'll exemplify it in kind of a motif method. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, go. There. So it's not blatant, but since you're always responding to what you just played, it's always new, and it's not indicative of having to play licks, because a lot of folks, they're not playing in bands all the time, and even if they are playing in bands, a lot of it is not improvised, right? So when they get a chance to unleash a little something, like maybe they get 2 rounds through a blues, 2 24-bar, or 24 bars total, 2 12-bar phrases, they find themselves just doing the licks that they know, and then they're convinced that they've got to do X amount of fiery stuff and so on and so forth. And my mind is that you should, if you keep it to just little bits of responding to what you just played, and start off with, for me, part of the fun of it is I'll start off as wiseacre-y as possible and paint myself into a corner that I got to get myself out of. But, I have my own band, I have my own voice, so I'm at liberty to take chances. But if you do so in more of a, straight environment, in terms of stuff, just respond. And it's much more easy to listen to. As a listener, it's exciting because you're like, I have no idea what's coming next. As a player, it's fun because I'm always having to be aware of what I just played and constantly be responding in real time, as opposed to just going on autopilot and just going, I'm going to throw Tweedly bit number 1, Tweedly bit number 4, Tweedly bit 74B, you know what I mean, and just kind of pasting it all together. First of all, let me just say that none of that is wrong. If that's the way you want to roll, let the good times roll. These are just my own manifesto tidbits, but I just find that it's a way that keep things more entertaining, because, you know, it's one of those things where when you're playing, I have an opportunity to, you know, we'll do a live stream and I'll listen back and I can adjudicate what I did. I'm like, well, that's cool, or maybe I'll work on that. That's what one of the greatest thing about the Wildwood videos for me has been the idea of being able, if the video will come up on my feed and I'm like, oh, well, let's see what this one sounds like. And I'll just listen to it for a couple minutes and I'll always be like, well, I won't do that again. Or, oh, that's cool, I'll leave that in. Or maybe we need to address the way the video sound or whatever the case may be. So it's always a matter of, you know, adjudicating what you're doing, which I get into later in the Manifesto. Let's see. Monetization seems to have been mistakenly turned on to start. We've turned it off at this point. Apologies, folks. Oh, sorry about that. That was unintentional, and that is uncool. But you know what? Technology is technology is a pain in the rump. Ladies and gentlemen, technology is a pain in the rump. I'm going to say that right now. First of all, any questions out there on any of this stuff? You can ask us anything. Someone. Mr. Keys has some wild socks there. That's Toby's MO, is he's a socksman. And he likes to play without shoes on so he can feel the various controls. Right. Isn't that right? You can actually speak through his microphone. We are wired up for sound.
Yeah, that's right.
We've suggested that he get his own line of apparel, you know, little Toby heads on, or big Toby heads on his feet, on his socks, and sell those. Because people, the kids would dig it. Everyone's got the download, right, of the PDF? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Chris London Music says, sometimes when I'm stuck, I'll start with mimicking the vocal phrasing, and then I'll get stuck with that, too. Yeah, well, it's kind of just a combination of all the above. You can mimic the vocal thing, mimic the melody of the tune, and then just kind of respond from there. But also, you know, I really think, and this is something I didn't put in the manifesto, but I say this all the time, is that as guitar players, well, I think as musicians in general, you're extraordinarily hard on yourself in terms of, like, forever, I was always in the mindset, well, someday when I play worth a crap, life will be good, you know? And so you're always listening to yourself, and you're always like, oh, that was shite, and this isn't good enough. And then at one point I realized, I was like, first of all, the average person who's enjoying music is not interested in all the different really technical things you might be trying to bring to the fore that you've failed or you think you failed upon. My motto is that nothing should be stopping you from making really good music with whatever skill set you have now, as opposed to, you can always add stuff to it. But, you know, even if you know 5 notes, you know, nothing should be stopping you from being able to make little melodies with that, you know, be able to add some feeling to the notes and however you want to do it. But if you have a kind of a more of a joyful approach to playing instead of one that's self-recriminating at all times, it's going to be better. So, and the other thing I like to say, you know, I used to play, you know, we've all played with a million bands, but you play with different people who really get down after gigs. And everyone's listening in a different way to what's happening on stage. It's kind of like when they say, even if you have several siblings in your family, everyone grows up in a different family because their experience is different, depending on their order of their birth and so on and so forth. I didn't mean to get that heavy with it, man. But I'm just saying people in bands have different perspectives of where they're coming from. And a lot of times, you know, I'd get off stage with some folks and I'd be thinking, man, that gig was happening. Everyone was into it. You know, the electricity on stage was great. And then someone would be like, man, that was really, you know, what X, Y, and Z, some kind of derogatory phrase, and really kind of bringing everybody else down because of this self-loathing, if you will, of looking at playing. And so what I do is I really have the motto of, when you're playing a gig, a recording, and so on and so forth, your mind is always, at least mine is always on doing the best I can in the moment, and my intentions are the best. I'm not trying to do anything underhanded when I'm performing. I'm not trying to undercut the guys in the band so I look better or do something to annoy somebody else. My intentions are, I'm there to play the music to the best of my ability and to enjoy myself. And I'm hoping, I'm not making music to people who don't like it. If you don't like it, that's cool, but I'm doing it so that hopefully you enjoy it, because that's where my intention is coming from. So when I get off the stage, or even to an extent with recording, I mean, obviously with recording you can go back and fix things if you want to, but I'm very much of the idea of there's something so pure about that happened then, and it happened for a reason. And so when you listen back to that stuff, you're like, well, that's what happened. You know, and that's not a cop-out either, because again, you're coming at it from the best of intentions, doing your best, giving it your all, and at the end, if that's what happened, then dude or dudette, that's what was meant to happen. So don't be like, oh, that sucked. You know, I remember I heard someone say, you're only as good as your last performance. I think that's horse shit. I really do. I really think if, you know, my last gig was really shit, that's where I am now. I mean, that's just seems utterly dysfunctional to me. What happened, happened, and, you know, if it was great, bad, indifferent, your intentions were the best, it happened, next time you're gonna do it something completely different. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. You know, there is such reverence, almost to the point of religiosity, about the musicians of the classic rock era, and really of classic jazz, any classic era of music. You know, it's like you can't say anything to mitigate the genius of like a Jimmy Page or Hendrix or Eddie Van Halen, or whoever it might be. Not that you would want to do that, but my motto is like, they're just dudes, and they were in situations where they were talented, they worked their ass off, but they were in positions where they could do what they do. But the amount that they had to do in terms of records, you think back then, you know, how many Zeppelin records were? 9 records, okay? There were maybe 8 tunes on each record. And then they went out and toured, and if that wasn't back in the day when everyone was recording stuff, a few weird people not weird people, but people that would take the time to have the energy to have recording equipment and so on and so forth. You know, and so they weren't worried about what they were playing on a given night, because they're like, yeah, well, I'm Jimmy Page, and I'm going to go out there, I got a dragon suit, I look badass, and it's so loud, people are just here for the experience. Now, if you're a musician nowadays, I mean, the amount of playing that you have exposure to of an individual who has to do what they do to make a living. I mean, I've got thousands of Wildwood videos. I've got 20-some records. I've got 50-some, I mean, I'm not blowing my horn. I'm just one of many who has to do the stuff that we have to do. And we're held up to a much higher standard to do all this stuff than these people who now people just say are gods and they're irrefutable. So it's one of those things where, as a musician nowadays, if I had to freak out about every time I was in a music store and someone crept up behind me and took a little video and posted it online, and because, you know, there's always going to be people going, oh, he's not all that great. I saw a video of him. It's like, oh, okay, so you're going to take a 5-minute video where I didn't even know I was being filmed and adjudicate my entire career. Well, as my wife would say, that's on you.
That's right.
All right, I got to get to some of these questions here. Sorry about that. How important is to know the key well to improvise? Well, absolutely, you need to know the key, without a doubt. And you need to know. I mean, you don't have to get crazy. It depends on what your goals are. You know, if your goal is to, you know, Tom is asking, like, for instance, Greg, could you talk a bit more about how to play on the 4-chord? Well, for instance, you know, like we talk about, you know, B.B. King, or we talk about, you know, if we're talking about a blues and going to the 4-chord and so on and so forth, you know, B.B. King or Clapton or Mike Bloomfield or Albert King and so on and so forth. a lot of these people are approaching it simply with a pentatonic type of a scale. And so if I'm in G, you know, now I could play over all the chords of a blues and sound good with just that scale. Okay? So when it goes to the 4, see, but I add that one, now I'm no longer in the pentatonic scale. So this is where it gets a little weird, because if you play pure pentatonics, meaning what I just played that, and you can, I suggest learning the pentatonic scales horizontally as well. And I mean pure pentatonic, so minor pentatonic. You know, doing those little fall-offs and stuff. I'm just following the notes of a minor pentatonic scale. It's got a really cool vibe to it. Now, the thing that I always used to do weird is that when I was first playing, I'd play along with records, and I was like, well, there's more notes going on in a blues than just the pentatonic scale. I don't know why they say it's all pentatonics, because if I'm on the 1, I could hit that note. Minor pentatonic has that note. But, you know, people are going... And then they put these notes in there too. And I was like, well, why is that? So that used to freak me out when people go, well, you're just a pentatonic player. I'm like, I don't even know really what a pentatonic is, because I'm adding in all these other notes that are in the realm of the records I'm listening to and the licks I'm copying. So then after a while, I had to start explaining this stuff to people and figure out, well, why can I use that note? So basically, you know, if we have that pentatonic scale, I suggest you just learn the pentatonics all over the neck, minor and major. Now I added the blue note in this. So let's go up to A here, just because it's centrally located, right? So I've got A minor pentatonic. Okay. Now, if you learn that all over the neck, I suggest you can find them online. Just go all over. And then, you learn them all over the neck. I never learned those until not that long ago, because I would play the pentatonic scale here, and then go up to the second position, and then I'd go to the B.B. King position, and then up to this position, and then back up here again. Because all the guys I was listening to would only play in those positions. And I thought all these other positions where those notes were like forbidden fruit land. I was like, well, that's like the deep end of the pool. I don't want to go there. I'm just going to stick to these other joints. So, Tom and man, he's like, you're as only good as your last performance. My wife told me the same thing. I'm calling the cops. Anyway, so when you're playing, I mean, you could play over all the notes of a blues scale, of a blues with the pentatonic. But I would say, just to kind of simplify, so I don't go off on for freaking hours talking about this, is that you aim for chord tones. All right, so you know when you go to that, so if you're in G, or we go back to A here, you know, and then when you go to that, you can think of this as a D7, you can think of it as a D9. So if you just want to stay pentatonic land, four, 5, I would just say, don't worry about the scales for each chord. You could stick to major or minor pentatonic and then just aim for chord tones and do it visually. As I like to say, you know, the jazz guys used to get so pissed about that, because they're like, you should know the notes and sing it in your head and be able to play it. You know, don't look at the guitar. It's like, dude, I'm going to tell you a little story about letting the ears follow where the eyes go. Where the eyes go, the ears follow. And then once you get used to visually knowing where you're going, your ear makes that connection, and then you're hearing it. There you go. Okay, I'm just seeing a random question here, which is Telly58TL says, great stuff, thank you. Can you please talk a little bit about an entrance and exit points into your solos? I would say that it's entirely random. And it depends on the tune. You know, if I'm doing a bluesy thing, I might stick to something that's just got a more of a bluesy type of vibe to it. I might start on, you know, neck pickup with a little cleaner sound. Lately what I've been doing, and I'll talk a little bit more about the tone in a while, is I have the gain and clean boosts all set. So when I turn down the guitar, it's clean, but it's got a little bit of compression to it. Not that I'm using a compressor, but it's pushing the amp tube, so it's... So what I might do is I might start with my fingers as opposed to the pick to add a little bit of dynamic control. And as it goes on, I might go to the bridge pickup and then add a little. Now this is a this little thing I added in there. T-Bone Walker used to do this thing. So when you go to a 5 and a blues, I'm in G here. So when I go to that 5 chord, I'm just taking a D augmented triad. And what T-Bone Walker would do, he'd start there and go like. So I'm hitting the G string and then just picking backwards. So if I do like. And then, of course, me being a wiseacre, I have to add a little bit more to it. So I'm adding another note to the chord, the augmented 7th chord. I'm doing a double stop with my top 2 fingers, with my ring finger and my middle finger on the B and G string. Do a little bit of palm muting as well. And you just go up and down whole steps. And that gives it kind of a whole tone thing as well. A lot of times what I'll do is I will just take that much of a whole tone scale. So you don't have to break your brain, although a whole tone scale is just all whole steps, okay? But if I do like a... in G, I could just take this much. And just add that in as a little way to make it exciting going to the 4. Okay, so I can be like. There's I just added this much. Now you can learn that scale all over the neck and let the good times roll, but just this much is pretty effective, you know what I mean? And it's all whole steps. Okay? Just a little a little something for getting into that 4 chord. And there's other things that you can do. Anywho, so I'm just going to go on to my next little tidbit here because I'm seeing a bunch of questions come in here, and I'll get to those as we go. Yes, and melodic minor is whole tone-ish as well. So in that situation, if we're going to that 4 chord, I would think of this particular chord, which is a half step above the 4. So this is a C sharp 9, but I'm thinking it as a sharp 11. So it looks weird, but basically, I'm keeping that G note in there. And over that particular chord, I'm going to play a G sharp or A flat, depending on how you want to say it, melodic minor scale. Okay, and again, you could just take that much of it. Okay, so in reference to the 4, again, we're going to... So that's another thing you can do, that you can also do a diminished scale, FYI. And by the way, people were asking, once you have this link, you can watch it over and over again. So you can reference this stuff when you go back and watch it on the reruns, your own personal rerun. But you can also do a diminished scale, which is a half step, whole step scale. And again, I'm just going to do it on the top 4 strings, really, starting with the D string. So again, when I'm going, I'm exaggerating, but you can also do little double stops. It's good to do all the different scales in all the intervals. So, and that's one thing. If I just showed it with pentatonics, and it's like if you take it, seconds and thirds. If I'm doing, just to break it down to a minor pentatonic scale, if I do it in seconds and thirds, so this interval's a third, that's a second, thirds, second, second, thirds, second, third, second. Now, how does that make sense? Well, if you're doing a solo, you're going to... seconds and thirds. How about the idea of thirds and fourths? Well, that's going to sound like this. So this is fourths, 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 thirds, fourths, 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 thirds, fourths. And you can pick that like alternately. You can go like down, up. And again, well, how do we engage in some of that kind of activity? So again. Anyways, you get the idea. So all that stuff can be done. And then we'll work on sixths and sevenths. Six are really good. Okay. So you just learn all the different intervals and all the different scales, and that stuff is really, really useful as licks because you can, and you don't have to learn them. I mean, yes, I recommend learning them all over the neck. What I did is I learned a major scale up and down the neck, be able to do it in the circle of fifths, and then take each interval and practice that up and down the neck in the major scale. And then do, seconds, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, sevenths, and then octaves. And then once you have it in, you just forget about it, okay? And it just kind of comes out at rando, and it becomes part of that conversational grab bag of stuff that you can start the conversation with or respond. 6, 7, that's right. 6 and 7. 6, 7. Mr. Brad says, the top part of melodic minor is whole tonus. You are correct, my man. Someone asked about, well, here's the thing, is like, how do you come up with new licks? Are they alterations of licks you hear, or are they purely invented? It's kind of a combination of all the above. Sometimes I will start doing stuff, and I'll hit a particular lick in a different kind of rhythmic sense. And then I will respond to that and think, well, I think I can do that same thing here. So in other words, I know I can take licks and, even if it's something like, that's a variation I just came up with. Now I can take that, like, I can go up and down a half step, whole step, or I can do minor thirds. Sometimes you can do things visually. I saw someone doing this the other day where they just took they called it asymmetric or symmetrical licks, where you just take a visual thing. Like I was doing this for years, this little tritone lick. So you're literally just going like 1, 3, or 1, 2, 3 on separate string. Okay. Do those all relate together? Not really, but it sounds cool. And then I thought, what would be cool? Because I saw someone doing a thing where you can invert things, like go the opposite way. So for this, I went the opposite way. I went up here. You know what I mean? So I'm going. Which sounds hideous, but when you're doing it in like, okay? So sometimes you just see visual things. There's that buddy of mine from England who has a channel called Not Quite Jazz. His name is Charles Harrison. And I was intrigued by his playing because he was playing some Holdsworthy things, but he sees things in different increments of this symmetrical type of visualizing of the neck. So one of them is he's got this thing where he'll do like a 1, 2, 4, but up the minor third. It's a stretch. Well, if you combine any number of different things, like just add a little bit in that for a second, and it sounds, I'm just making that up as I go along. It sounds twisted. His other thing is just taking like that idea of that kind of a whole tone thing of whole step. Now that's not a scale per se. That's not doing a traditional whole tone. That's just taking that visual thing of whole step. Now, depending on where you stop, that's the problem, right? But you could do it asymmetrical, like. No, I've never played that before in my life, but I would. If I'm going. Just do it for a split second, establish some kind of twisted thing, and then you resolve it. So yeah, different licks are happening all the time. And it's fun to just get little idea. Like when I saw him, he's got a great little manifesto he hands out, which is kind of a visual showing of the different licks. My hat is off center, and every time I try to adjust it, I go the wrong way. It's reversed. It's driving me crazy. Woo! Anywho, so let's see what we got here. Graham Morrison is asking a question. He's saying, Greg, I recently purchased your Fishman Fluence pickups. They're amazing. Holy shit. Waiting on Gristle King at the moment, but the pickups are so clean. I'm glad you dig them. I love them. I mean, it's changed my whole existence by having those pickups in terms of, having a format where it's noise-free, but they actually sound unbelievable. First and foremost, they sound unbelievable, but then there's no noise. Then there's a second voice that gives you a little bit more heat. So, and each pickup set we worked on has a unique thing that I think truly makes it different, which is fantastic. Dorian is asking, how do you choose when to use the pick or fingers? Do you have to soften your pick dynamic for fingered notes not to sound too soft to cover? Well, absolutely. It's just a matter of dynamic control in what you're trying to do, which kind of leads into I'm only on the second thing of the manifesto. Not that we have to go through the whole thing, because obviously you have it to take with you and you can read it and so on and so forth. But the idea that I have here is try not to play any more than 3 or 4 notes without adding some guitar-y sauce. So what do I mean by that? I mean like playing with your fingers as opposed to a pick. Slides, bends, vibratos, slurs, squeals. And as we put down here, if more than a few notes go by with no articulation, you're typing instead of preaching the gospel of gristle. Well, I like the way that sounds, ladies and gentlemen. So what I mean by that is, and again, this is my take. This is not like the gospel. It's just the gospel of how I look at it. It may not be your gospel, and I'm sure a jazz player would be horrified by, oh, what do you mean you're not concentrating more on harmony and listening to this and that as opposed to bending strings? Oh, my God, Jesus! Because I remember back in the day, man, and people have gotten a lot cooler with it, but, you know, traditional jazzists, you bend a string or add vibrato in a way that's not, you know, traditionally oriented, and you are, they used to play, that's that rock shit. And at the time I'd be like, yeah, but I do so much more than rock. Now I'm like, you goddamn right it's that rock shit. You goddamn right. So what I mean by that? Okay, well, if we do like, you know, I just add that little here in it. Now, there was a little bit more than 4 notes that went down there in that faster thing. But it's just kind of a thing to have in the back of your mind. Because you get into the stream of consciousness and you just start rattling forth with the stuff and you're realizing, well, I didn't take a pause. And not that that's the end of the world. Because again, I like to speak to the fact that, well, maybe that's what was meant at the time, is that you were feeling the vibes. There was a vibe in the room. You were responding to what was going, and you played a lot of notes. Okay, that happened. But a good way, when I'm listening back to stuff, the things that I like to listen to are things that have a little bit more of that guitar-y sauce in it. So part of the reason why I wrote this manifesto is because I need to read that shit and keep it in line, because it's kind of my vision for keeping things musical to my ears. Someone said, boomer bends. Yep. There was a thing where some youngsters were I think it was, what's neck tattoo guy? He's a nice kid, actually. I can't remember his name. He's from a band called I can't remember, folks. There's only so much room on the hard drive. Anyway, he's an incendiary player, plays all kinds of crazy stuff, and he made some kind of offhand comment about boomer bends, and it became a thing online. Because, you know why? Because folks will do anything to argue online about guitar and who's the best and who's the worst and what's good tone and what's not, other than practicing their instrument or actually making art. They will fight tooth and nail online, and, as opposed to, how about just playing music? It's so delicious. That's what I'm in it for. Anyway, but yes, boomer bends. It's like the bending of that and again, one of the things I have on the thing is that if you want to get your bends and your vibratos right, you listen to people you're kind of trying to emulate, but we all perceive vibrato and bends in a different way. Obviously, in tune is in tune, right? So you can't fake in tune. There are certain things that are true north, and being in tune is kind of one of them. But that being said, the rate of vibrato, the timing of the bends, the articulation, all that kind of stuff, all that really boomer bendish stuff, is things that I learned a lot by listening to people and playing along with records. But what's happening is that a lot of times you listen back and you're like, well, that doesn't sound anything like what I was going for. And you're like, oh, Jesus. So it's important to adjudicate yourself. And not that you want to sound exactly like somebody else, but it's important to listen back to what you're doing, because how you are hearing yourself in the moment versus how you'll hear yourself upon reflection are two different things. So you want to try to mitigate the differentiation between now self and later self. when I was drinking back in the day, I was always like, I'm in a constant battle with night guy. Morning guy hates night guy. So why did you do that to me, night guy? I feel like shit. Anyway, so it's the same kind of thing. Polyphony, thank you. Colin plays guitar. That's the band that guy's in. Tim Henson, thank you. There we go. Anywho, so yeah, it's important to be able to listen to yourself playing, and again, not be like, oh my God, that was horrible. Just like, well, that's what happened then, and now because I did that, I'm learning from it, and I'm going to do something different next time. You don't be like, oh my God, that was horrible. I hope nobody heard it. I hope, yeah. All these people are sitting around their tables. You know what I mean? Going, God damn it, I just can't get off my mind that I saw that band on the Lido deck. And that guy took a lead, and that bend sounded like ass. Let's talk about it. What do you think, Uncle Jerry? Yes, I was troubled by it. I sharted as a result of the experience. It's like, they ain't doing it. So, you know what? Don't torture yourself.
That's right.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Boy, I had to work a shard into today's show. Just had to do it. Don't be afraid of it. Yeah, we could do that. Let's actually, you know what? Let's do vibratos and bends are a very personal thing. They are indeed, but it's arguably the hardest thing to do from my point of view, because I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of technically oriented things with picking and arpeggios and alternate picking things with 3 notes per scale. All that stuff is very, very challenging from a physicality point of view, but you can train a monkey to do it. I mean, you can. I mean, that's why there's, you could turn on any video now and some kid I used to joke, pretty soon they'll be like in utero shredders. You know what I mean? They'll have some kind of camera in the womb, and some kid will be going, be playing Eruption, but it'll sound chorusy because it's in the womb and there's that embryonic fluid. And, but... the vibratos, and then what kills me, a lot of times you'll watch people online and they're doing this amazing, crazy stuff, but then they'll do like a vibrato or a finger thing, and even the tone, it's like the tone and the vibrato and the bends, all that stuff, it is a very personal thing, but that's what is the stamp of the individual, as far as I'm concerned. Now, other people may think something different, and they like note choices and tapping and creative ways of tapping and getting different intervals and that's all cool in the gang. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. I will say, though, it's seemingly more difficult to spend time on getting those bends and getting that stuff consistent, especially if you want your own voice. It's very, very difficult. Clapton used to say that. Well, of course, now people go crazy. Clapton was a son of a bitch! It's like, take whatever opinion you have of him out of it. I actually had the opportunity to meet him once, and he was like right in front of me, and I would have had to tap on his shoulder, and I thought, if he's a dick, it's going to ruin a lot of stuff for me. So I thought, I'm good. I'm good with the records. Thanks, bro. But anyway, that old footage of him in 1968 where he's with the SG with the colors, the painted, the Fool guitars, they called it. He's doing this vibrato. He goes, that is very, very difficult and take you a very, very long time to learn how to do. And he's absolutely right. There you go.
Stepping out or something?
Yeah, we could. Let's see. Graham says, I play violin. No one really obsesses over vibrato. They just know how to make it sound different. For whatever reason, guitar players dive so deep that they think certain things aren't possible. Yeah, that's true. I mean... I think a very important thing to remember about vibrato and about phrasing and tone in general is that a lot of times when we listen to stuff, we perceive it one way. And then, like let's say like a Billy Gibbons vibrato. I mean, that's what I think of I think of that. I think of someone just kind of like Jabba the Hutt going, you know. I have different visuals of what I think it sounds like, and then I'll listen back to it. It's like, well, it's not that extreme. But what's cool is that your perception of what that vibrato was, and now your interpretation of it has now become something different, and that's okay. So if you're doing something and it doesn't sound exactly like the person you're emulating it, but you've created something that was inspired by that, all the better. You know what I'm saying? Could fill spoons full of coffee. Yes. Isn't the best way to get out of a shardy is to find the next note to resolve it? Yeah, well, that's a fact. Sometimes, you know, that's like the big thing is like in jazz, like play a wrong note and then repeat it. One of those things I think about is that if you've ever listened to the Allman Brothers Eat a Peach, and they're doing Mountain Jam, and Dwayne does like a... Or no. He does like that. Yeah. And he's like, oh shit, there you go. And then he resolves it. So it's a classic example of when you hit a bad note, you're like, oh, I'm gonna work myself out of that damn thing. And be like, that's what I intended. And who's to say that it wasn't? But anywho, all right. What helped you become confident and comfortable about your playing? Alcohol. Well, no, that's not true. That's one thing. Even when I was drinking heavily, I would never drink. I would drink during the gig, but never before. If I drank before a gig, I couldn't play shit. I was like, ugh. But, you know, I could show up, I could have one, and then as I was playing, over the course of an evening, I could do Herculean efforts of consumption. But if I started drinking before I played, I couldn't play diddly squat. But anyway, as far as confidence is concerned, yeah, you know, I just, from the very first early days on, I had this attitude that I'm not going to be stopped. And, you know, and again, you're in situations where, you know, sometimes you find yourself with other players that maybe are older, or like back in the day, where you're like, oh, I've got to kind of suss out the situation. But, you know, you just kind of, you have almost this kind of insanity of confidence. And that's really what's needed. That's like the whole thing where I talk about people going into music. It's like, you know, if you can see yourself doing anything else, you should do that. Because in order to succeed, you have to be so single-minded and borderline crazy that you're going to pull it off. And you're going to, now, unfortunately, sometimes that happens to people who actually have no talent. And then, and then of course, they become huge rock stars. What? That's inappropriate. Anyways, but that's the difference, is that there has to be a certain screw loose in kind of the best way, in terms of just like, I'm going to do this thing, and I'm going to, you know, and then but at the same token, I always say I kind of also thrive on negative reinforcement, because I can remember every nasty thing that was said to me over the years. And sometimes when I look back at it now, it's like older people saying horrible shit to this young kid. And I never did that ever to anybody. And I think back about, you know, just the horrible shit that people said to me when I was younger coming up. But I responded to that like, I'm going to show this motherfucker. And that was always part of it. Now I just don't care. You know, now I see things that people say, and I'm like, you know what? The list of people that are justified, that have amount of effort and have done the things and put in the time, that could say something to me that would be kind of assholeian, wouldn't, because they'd have the grace not to do it. You know what I'm saying? So anytime I see someone say some shit, I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, that's one of the things on my list, is like, opinions are worth what you paid for them. If you didn't pay anything, don't worry about it. And even then, if you paid for it, take it in consideration. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to work with this producer who really, hey, I want to pay him, what do you think about this? And then you take that information, and you know, you always got to be, especially if derogatory shit, you always got to just realize that's about them, that's not about you, and go from there. Okay. Let's see, any other questions here? Great rhythm section you have locked in. Oh, let's say, yeah, great rhythm section is definitely needed. in order to be confident in your playing. Let's play another tune. By the way, this is Toby Lee Marshall on the organ, who, of course, has come down from Minneapolis, part of the Calk Marshall Trio. That's the touring band. In the Orange Room here over the years, I've had various different people. We've had my buddy Steve Andreoni play bass. We've had Turner the Burner. And then there was some confusion, like, wait a minute, what's your band? It's like, the band that I'm on the road with all the time. But, sometimes it's, people only see what's right in front of them, and I get it. But that's why we're trying to do live streams where we have time to bring Toby down so that people there's no confusion in the method. Not that there's anything wrong with occasionally having the other boys come in and do some stuff, but, we're trying to get the word out about this band that we've put so much work and road work into that we don't want it to confuse. Anyway, and Toby's playing left-hand bass on this organ. That's the top organ is where he has the. Hang on, let me go over here and go. Oh no, that's the close to me. Oh, that's my pedal. Oh no, I don't have that. Ryan will have to do that. He's probably doing battle with children right now. So anyway, so the top organ is what he's using for engaging in basscraft, and that's going through that top speaker cabinet and amplifier. And then all the rest of the Hammond goodness is going through, of course, the Leslie. And then Dylan James, my son, on the doggone drums. And he's also the marketing person behind all of the stuff that we've been doing here. So he's been, he's responsible for putting this whole thing together and doing the emails and getting the word out and all that kind of stuff. So he's also been doing a great job of getting the word out for gigs and stuff and doing all the ads and so on and so forth. Chris Mullen asks, thoughts on practice ideas for intermediate players? Well, I think, I think it's always a good idea to, if you're stuck and you need to, and you're not confident of where you about the neck and knowing where things are, I think it's always important to put a timer on and do X amount a day of stuff that you really just don't want to practice, which might be, I think it's really important to know the pentatonics up and down the neck, both from a perpendicular point of view and a horizontal point of view, and for vertical and horizontal. Because then you know where everything is. And there's that caged system, and that's like, the cage system is just knowing how to play off those different chords, your C, A, G, and E, and all the different scales that correspond to those different shapes all over the neck. And that's just knowing those pentatonics up and down the neck. And then learn a major scale. And, and major scale is one of those things where you're not going to use it all that often, but you're going to use a couple of modes whether you know it or not. And one of them is the Dorian mode, and the other one's the Mixolydian mode. And you might use an Aeolian mode, and you might use aioli. And you might, I hate mayonnaise and all of its byproducts. But knowing, oh, what am I doing? See, I fucked up. Sorry, up and down the neck. So, see, I screwed up. So that's the G major scale up and down the neck. And then I would do it like in seconds, like down. And then thirds. So on and so forth. You do it, and that's just something that I would practice. And as far as someone was asking about the circle of fifths. So if I do that in G, then on the way down I would do it in F. And then I do the next one in B flat, and the next one E flat, next one A flat, next one in C sharp, next one in F sharp, and the next one in B, and then E, and then A, D, and then back to G again. And that takes a long time. Santana seems very Dorian. You're absolutely right, David. That was kind of my first entry drug into playing minory things and because I realized, there's some other notes in here that are not on the pentatonic scale. What's that all about? And someone said, well, that's the Dorian scale. And the Dorian scale is just... which is actually all the notes in the G major scale, but I'm starting and ending on A. So instead of going, I'm going, okay, and that's basically, it's a minor scale with a flat 7. And the reason that works out great is because it's right in blues land there, and you can add that. Mix your bluesy goodness in with that scale. Ooh, it sounds damn good. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? All right, let's do a little something, something. You know what we're going to do, just because it's fun and I want to play it, is we're going to do this new shuffle tune of ours, and it's called Larger Than Life. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's going on. Now, what's troubling about this song, ladies and gentlemen, is that I have to turn the wah pedal on and off, and I'm sitting down, and it's a pain in the ass. I think I just moved it, so in case the camera goes on, it's going to be fucked up. Anyway, that's all right. So you might see me struggling a little bit, but that's all right.
There we go. Crack it with your heel.
There we go. Oh, he's out of juice. I think you're out of juice, so you're just going to see the static thing anyway. So I'm going to.
The juice is gone.
All right. This is the little thing. Like people always think, oh, it sounds like Rainy Day Dreamer Way. Yeah, it's a shuffle in D. But we added some different juice to it, so it's our own melody. It's our own. The harmonic rhythm is different, but yeah, that's the thing. It's we're all influenced by something. Hendrix was influenced by Kenny Burrell organ trios when he came up with Still Raining, Still Dreaming. So now we're kind of doing all of that and putting it in one fell swoop. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Toby. Can you dig it? Yeah. Fuck. Doggone. I'll leave the pedal on the whole time. Screw it. You have to be standing up in order to get that thing to get it off and on. The shuffle time, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, these. The camera over there by Toby, it's near where the drums are at, and for some reason the whole thing is shaking. Whole thing is shaking. Let's see back some of those questions. Thank you very much. Get those questions back a little bit. Let me see what we got. He's shaking the very foundations of gristle. Is that the guy from Letterman? No, it is not. You are not Paul Schaefer. That is Toby Lee Marshall. Although I'm sure we all wish we had some of the financial situation that Paul Schaefer is obviously enjoying. I bet he has got, yes. Not that it's all about the money, but it sure doesn't hurt. You know what I mean? It doesn't hurt, but you got to buy food and stuff and pay your bills. It's always good to. Yes. The live shot, that was not a live shot of the Cock Nest Monster because we ran out of juice, but that picture of the Cock Nest Monster is what I'm using. And I'm going actually through the Tone King Royalist amplifier, which is right behind my head. That's the amp, and I've got it set so it's pretty clean, actually. Let me turn everything off here so you can hear what the amp is actually set on. This is how I have the amp set. Okay. Then I hit the clean boost on my Gristle King. And then I might hit the Boomster pedal as well, which is another boost. Now I'll also put a little slap back on. going to hit the Gristle King pedal. So typically what it'll do is I'll just keep the Gristle King pedal on. Now, those are just, that tone has got a little bit of grease on it. But I turn down the volume, it's a little clearer. It's pretty doggone juicy. Someone says, I hear echoes of Frank Zappa. Well, that is no accident. I am a big Zappa fan, and I appreciate his whole modus operandi. Just curious as your thoughts on trying to learn Tommy Emmanuel's music. You know, I've never sat down and learned any Tommy. He's a frightening guitar player. I am a fan of Chet Atkins and Jerry Reed and Merle Travis, and so I've done a little homework on that frontier, but I've never sat down and learned any of Tommy's stuff, although I'm a huge fan. I mean, he's just absolutely top tier as far as that style of guitar playing is concerned. He's the man. He's a very entertaining lad as well, and a very nice fellow from my experiences with him. Anyway, so back to improvisatory activity. We've been talking about improv the whole time. I don't know, Mark is saying. So, improv, we haven't been talking about it?
We're talking about number 4. I like number 4. I've been trying to incorporate that one.
Oh, he's talking about, okay, number 4. So, the 3 and 4 are as follows. Speed is an exclamation point, not an entire language. Now, again, and the very next one kind of leads into it, is if you think you're leaving space, leave more. And I say, your perception of space is a filthy liar. Wait longer, awkwardly longer, then it becomes musical. Again, these are my thoughts, but what's so crazy is that a lot of times when I'm playing, I'm thinking I'm leaving this gaping space and that I'm playing not a lot of notes, and then I'll listen back as like, that space was like a millisecond, and then it was like way more notes than I had thought in mind. So that's part of the problem. I mean, you're always trying to get better on your instrument. You learn more stuff. So your perception of time and quantity of notes and all that kind of stuff is different than your later self. Your in the moment self is hearing one thing because you're in the spirit of it and so on and so forth. And then your later self listening with a more kind of as someone who's just enjoying the music is just like, well, that I had no idea. As I said, sometimes you leave a space and you think it's gaping, and in fact, it's not. So when I was just playing that thing, I was trying to keep intentionally huge holes, but a lot of times you're in that conversational mode, you get kind of excited. And so I try to just literally think of just take a moment and take a breath, and then get back into it again. Or think, I'm going to leave a hole here, and then think, that's whole. Let's make it even a little bit longer. That's what I've been doing as of late. And so as a result, it just is more musical sounding, I believe. Now, that's not to say that, it's not gratifying to someone to hear a million notes rammed together in some kind of stream of consciousness thing. For me, I don't like to hear that. So when I'm listening back and I'm adjudicating how I'm playing, I'm thinking, well, I'd rather appreciate it. Like, I'll give you an example. So when I was just down doing some courses with Brett Papa, he's like, okay, let's do a kind of maybe a couple different versions, a harder version and an easier version. So I do an easier version, had more space, the vibratos were better, so on and so forth. And then I hear the harder version. I was like, I like the easier version better. So it's like what we think needs to be done because of our level of technique and so on and so forth doesn't need to be done. And I think part of that whole thing is, again, talking about the internet and how musicians are in some capacities. There's this athletic competition aspect of music that is disgusting to me, I think. I mean, but we all get sucked into it at one point, and not as like a blatant, but at some point it's like, if someone is trying to upstage you, I don't even care anymore. It's like if I'm on stage with somebody, I know someone's doing that, I'll give them all the rope they need. I'll just go ahead. And then I'm just going to be myself. You can't out me. And you, just like I can't out you. So if you're confident and you have your own thing, none of that is a big important thing. But I think one of the reasons why we play more notes and maybe not leave as much space is we think that, well, I might think in my mind how other people are perceiving that that's lame and they're not getting their money's worth. And that's totally not a thing. It should be about music. It should be about how that music feels, and both in the moment, but then stands the test of time afterwards. So I would say, especially like the speed thing, it's like, if I hear someone, and this is the thing, and again, this is all a matter of preference. This is just my feelings on it. You might have different feelings. Lord knows other people have different feelings on it. But, one of the things in like modern blues guitar is like the blues shredding thing. And I really have very little time for it. And sometimes I get lumped in, he's one of those blues shredders. Like, and it's because when people hear you play fast, they don't consider that you just played slow shit leading up to that fast stuff. So a lot of people have a thing where they'll think, he just plays fast stuff. And I'm like, have you listened to more of it? And that's just people being insecure. So that leads to the other thing of what people are saying is, it's worth about what you paid for it. But just indicate it from your own point of view. And from my point of view is I like it when all of a sudden, the last minute, you're like, you throw in a fast thing and it comes at you from such a weird space. Then it's like using an important, or like an interesting vocabulary word, or or just like a joke or something. You've got one locked. You're talking a story, and the story's leading someplace, and it's leading to this place where you're going to throw in this punchline, and you're going to floor it. The whole thing is going to make sense. That's what speed is to me, right? And that's just the way I think about it, right? And then, but the same token, people are like, so and so played like this. It's all a matter of perspective, and things have been kicked down the road to the point of view. I mean, I love Alan Holdsworth, right? And I listen to Alan Holdsworth, and I don't attempt, or I've never sat down and tried to transcribe any of his stuff. I've learned a few of his chords. There's a couple little things that I do that are influenced by the way he might do these long stretches to get these cool intervals. Like I'll take something like. Something like that. But that's just taking a visual thing of minor third. I'm literally doing that same interval, which is one up a minor fourth, or minor third, sorry, and then up another minor third. Right, and add some of that stuff in. But he plays really fast, crazy things. And his harmonies are so out there, but I love them. I love the way he puts a song together. But the average listener is going to listen to that and say, I don't get it. Which is a shame, because he truly was a genius that moved, the world was different after Alan Holdsworth, without a doubt. And I think people confuse the aspect of commerciality and success, commercial success, with quality. Like people are like, you write a great song and it'll always reach the top. That's not true. It's like you can write a great song, and just because it's not the right time, at the right place, with the right person doing it, with the right this, that, the next thing, it's not going to do anything. And by the same token, if someone writes a really quirky, catchy song, is that better than someone following their muse and coming up with really something creative and glorious in a way that's a little bit more obtuse? Because that's the way they feel it, and they put all their time and energy into it. It's like, that's not marketable, so that's not as good as this Mary Had a Little Lamb. I don't cop to that. It's just, they're two different things, and if we have to pinpoint, financial success as the arbiter of what's quality, then we're in big trouble.
That's right.
Can you dig it? Let's see what we got here. Can you name good tune solos to learn from someone that can play but is just starting on blues improvisation? That's David Gollum. David, I would say a thing that was very, very useful to me, and even though it might seem advanced, but it's just fun to listen to, is that John Mayall's Blues Breakers record with Eric Clapton, because that's kind of the bar. You know what I mean? It's like, it's incendiary, but it's the tone, the attitude, everything that he does in there. It's just fun to play along with. And you can just take whatever you can for the moment and just play along with the songs, and it's absolutely a blast. And it's really the kind of a culmination of what blues rock guitar is all about, as far as I'm concerned. And then the other thing is that B.B. King live at the Regal is like a Bible. And even though there'll be stuff on there, because he does throw some kind of jazz-ish licks in there, and but it's fun to play along, and it's just a good way to get your more than your feet wet, but to really kind of listen to the pinnacle of what all the big dogs listen to is live at the Regal, and the Blues Breakers record. I mean, that's kind of the level where you want to be at, but it doesn't have to intimidate, because again, they're blues songs, so there's not theoretically anything that's so over the top on them, but you can really concentrate on playing along and try to get some of that stuff under your belt. What else we got here? Can you name? I need to get out of my own head. I'm terrified to make a mistake while I'm playing in public, so I rarely improvise. You know what? Just stick to what you know, and and even if it's like just bending one note or sticking in one position. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm a huge B.B. King fan, and he knew a lot of guitar stuff. He just at times he was concentrating more on his vocals, and so he would just kind of stick here. But sometimes he would just stick here. There. Stick in one area and just make it musical. You know, just... Of course, I'm using different vibrato and so on and so forth, but I'm not playing a lot of notes. So stick with what you know, that you know sounds good, and don't worry about it. And if you play a clunker, just repeat it. Sometimes virtuosos are best taken in smaller doses. That's true, but it's, if you had to listen to Alan Holdsworth, I would just recommend the first IOU record. It's fantastic, with Jeff Berlin, and I believe it's either Chad Wackerman or Gary Husband on drums. Metal Fatigue is another good one. And Paul Williams, not the Paul Williams that you're probably thinking of, it's an English guy who's singing on a couple of those records. And Jack Bruce actually sings on a couple of tunes on the IOU record. And it's fascinating music. I remember when that stuff came out, and you're just like, this is like where music has come to. This is like the top of the mountain as far as like harmonic, achievement and rhythmic complexity and all that other kind of stuff. You're just like, wow, what's next? And then you just realize it's actually just going to go down from here. I'm just kidding. Somebody just said that the faster I get, the sloppier I get. That's definitely a thing. I mean, and don't worry, just play within. Here's another thing. A lot of times what you think people are doing speed-wise, it's not as fast. A lot of the licks that Clapton does that you think are kind of fast sounding, and then you play them and you're playing them faster than they actually are. It's like, go back and listen to a lot of the people that play stuff that you thought was fast, and it's not as fast as you thought it was. That being said, I mean, there are people that play things that are blazingly fast. There's people like anything from like the Steve Morris stuff. to Guthrie Govan, who plays some amazingly fast things, and Yngwie Malmsteen, but old school country guys like Joe Maphis and Jimmy Bryant. Man, they play stuff that was astoundingly fast. But as far as like soloing wise, yeah, don't worry about if you're playing that sounds kind of sloppy, then don't do that, or practice it to the point where it's like you don't even have to think about it; it just comes out as that exclamation point at some point down the line. But it's like singing out of your range. You know what I mean? It's like if you're vocalizing on a song that's clearly out of your range. Don't get all depressed about it. Change the key of the song and do what's in your range. So if something you're playing is not making sense, either practice it to the point where it makes sense or get rid of it and replace it with something that you can do that sounds cool and is not going to make you sound sloppy. Does that make sense? Anywho. Let's see what we got. Chris London said, they're talking about, I think I see a couple of responses, ask Roy Clark or ask Rory Gallagher. I don't think that's actually a real quote from anybody. It's like they would say, we asked Hendrix who the best guitar player was, and he said, ask Terry Kath. Or we asked Clapton who the best guitar player was. I don't know, ask Prince or ask Rory Gallagher. That's not a thing. I was going to say right now, that's not a thing. No one said those things. And I guarantee if they did say this false humility of, ask so-and-so, I mean, being the best guitar player is not a thing. There are people that are really good at a thing that probably can't do X, Y, and Z that you like what this other person does. And then there's other people that have skill levels on every little thing that sound cool, but yet their tone might be not up here. It's all subjective, completely subjective. And then there's the whole thing of, who got famous and who didn't? Is it because they were the best? No. It's because they were in the right time at the right place. I mean, look at Hendrix. Hendrix was bumming around America. No one wanted to know. No one gave a sweet squat about Jim until an English guy went in and thought, or Linda Keith, Keith Richards' girlfriend, knew that, the bass player from the Animals was going to get into producing. Oh, you should check this guy out. Why? Because she knew about music, but she thought Jimmy was hot. So she said, hey, you should check this dude out. He's amazing and hot. And the guy was like, I think I just found my guy. And then the rest was history. But he could have easily never happened. So this whole idea of, and Hendrix was a very humble dude, and he was amazing. And, that's the only person, there's a few people that I'll give kind of like total, almost kind of like he was an alien type of a thing. But it was the right place at the right time, the right drugs, the right outfits, the right amalgamation of stage, maneuverings and so on and so forth. But that being said, I mean, there's these top 10 lists. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I, for whatever reason, like one year, such and such magazine listed me on some list, it's like, yeah, it's flattering, and you're like, well, that's unbelievable. And then other people see that and like, wow, that's really, but it's not a thing. It's a popularity contest, and it's a propaganda contest. And music is about how you feel about it, where you come. It's just not a thing. And I get so irritated with just people, especially like they'll do, Hendrix or Clapton, Hendrix. This person, that, they'll do those little comparison thing or reaction videos and this kind of stuff. It's just like, I get it, and it's fun. It was fun in high school when I would argue with my my buddy Keith, who was saying, Steve Howe is so much better than Hendrix. Hendrix sucked. And I'd say, yeah, Hendrix couldn't do the things that Steve Howe could do, but Steve Howe couldn't do the things that Hendrix could do. And plus, Jimmy's better. But, I mean, obviously, Steve Howe was an unbelievable guitar player that knew all kinds of stuff that Hendrix couldn't do. But Hendrix had a thing that I loved, and I appreciated it more, so therefore you're like, he's better. But there's no better. It's who you like and who you don't like as much. Can you dig it? Okay, Tom, perhaps tell us what you did and how you got there. So organic. I'd love to be able to do this free form playing like you. Well, thank you. It's You know, I did go to school for music, but I wasn't a very good student, I got to be honest with you. You know, but I was already on my path. I mean, I could play when I went to college. And I got to the point where, you know, I could play over certain formats, but I couldn't. Harmony was a hard thing for me. Like, if there were certain changes I would play at, and that's one of the things on my list here. You know, after the attitude and tone, I've kind of touched on all this thing, but one of the big things, number 7 on the manifesto, is you want to play over changes, memorize the chords and melody. That's absolutely the truth. But here's the other thing. In terms of that, I mean, because I think a lot of people, myself included, when I was younger, I thought, oh, at some point, you know, after you've practiced your scales and you know your arpeggios, and yes, I see that, Ryan. I'm with you. If you know all that stuff, you're all of a sudden the light's going to switch on, and then and someone can call any jazz song, and you're just going to know it, and you're going to be able to improvise over it. And the bottom line is that you still need to know the song. I mean, yes, there is some language and harmony things that go from one standard to the next that you're going to be able to hear. Certain 2/5s are going to make sense, and there's certain things harmonically you can do over certain 2/5, you know, different cycling 2/5s and so on and so forth. Certain bridges have similarities, whatever the case may be, but you still need to learn the song. But one of the things that I've learned that I've been telling people is I like to do songs where you can either play over the changes or not play over the changes. For instance, you know, like that tune of ours, Welch's Grape, where it goes C sharp minor 7, or C sharp 7, sharp 9. So, C sharp 7, sharp 9, yeah, the Jimi Hendrix wrote. To a G13, do an F sharp 13, do an E13, to a D9, back to C. So over that, you know, I can just kind of stay in C sharp bluesland. And it's going to sound fun. Or I can follow the changes for it. Now, see right there, I hit that note unintentionally, but it still works. So another thing I'll do is, I realized that you can either play over the changes or not play over the changes, or hit a couple of the changes, or you can superimpose some different things. Like I realized on this tune, it sounds cool to be in C bluesland. Let's do those chords again. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up with half step. I'll do it one more time. So I'm in C. Go up a half step. One more. Down. So it's not perfectly outside, but it's outside in a cool way. So you can do half step, half step, half step, and then back again. It was kind of funny. We were doing this song on Friday in the live stream. I think we opened up with it. And then during my solo, I was toying with some different things. I was toying with playing over the changes, not playing over the changes, intentionally avoiding the changes, and so on and so forth. And some guy left a message, and I have no idea if he was kidding or not. I was like, "You're trying to tell me you know how to play over changes?" And I thought, "Oh my God, I don't even respond to that." But I was like, oh, if you're asking that question, you don't get it. So the idea is to be able to be free with those kind of improvisations and to be able to do different things. And again, you know, I guess in the world of the jazz, you know, there's this kind of, you know, cocky jazziness where it's like, if you're not playing over the, well, it's like the police. They're going, oh, he's not playing over the changes. He must not know how to do that. I'm going to tell all my jazz friends. You know, and then again, you've got how much stuff out there that people could easily digest where you're doing very. I saw 2 seconds where he didn't play over the changes. He must not be able to play over the changes. I'm going to tell my friends, hey, friends, he doesn't know. I was like, really? That's all you got? As my wife would say, that's on you. Okay, I'm going to address one more question, then I'm going to talk a little bit about some kind of a fun thing that we're doing for you all if you guys are interested. Can you touch on how you assimilate all your influences into your own voice? That's something I've just always done in terms of I might learn something from someone and then it might be a country lick, like the chicken picking thing. Or it might be an Albert King lick or a kind of vibrato. All the stuff to me was all connected, in terms of blues, jazz, rock, country, funk. To me, it was all the same thing. So I would just change the kind of the inflections on everything to add it to different things. Rhythm-wise, I might like. That would be more of a bluesy thing, but if I was doing more of a funk thing. Suppose okay. If it's more of a country thing, I might be like. Still using a lot of the same kind of stuff. If it was more of a jazz thing. Okay. So I take all the different things and just kind of mutate around them, like just simple things like taking those chords. That's just harmonizing an A mixolydian scale with triad. So I've got G triad, F sharp triad, E minor triad, D triad, A7, B minor, back to A. So I might make a little melody. That tune of mine, 265, is just using that. Okay, but if I'm doing like a funk thing, I might. So I'll just take various different ideas and just change the inflections on them, and it becomes a different thing. And I just kind of put it all in the same gristle soup, and just kind of, serve it up piping hot. Question there: any chance you'll be releasing background jam tracks for purchase or download in the future? Good question, Zach. Zach, I'm going to have, I'm working on a new Brett Papa course. I was just down in Nashville this whole last week, and it's going to be extensive. There's going to be jam tracks. The stuff's going to be transcribed. I do lesson segments. We really tried to make it comprehensive. So when that stuff gets closer, we'll put the news out there of what's happening. And let you know what that's all happening. I see that when you play with larger groups like Allman Brothers thing, how do you find the spot to improvise without stepping all over the other players? You got to listen at all times. You really have to listen. And that's another funny thing. It's like I've posted a few videos of me playing with those guys, and most people enjoy it. I'm respectful of what the music is, and I play in that mode, but I also maintain my own identity. I'm not doing I could do a Dickie Betts tribute. I could do a Dwayne Allman tribute. I could go into Derek Trucks mode or Warren Haynes or whatever, but I do my own thing in the confines of those things. But the whole thing with that kind of improvising is that, you build up solos and you get out. I tend to like to do shorter solos than those guys do. They might go on and on and on and on and on and on. I like to build it and get out. But that's me. The really, really long jams, I think, get a little ponderous from my point of view. I don't want to hear myself play that long. So I'll just, you'll build it up, make a statement, and get out. What I do find funny, though, is because you're doing there's a lot of people, again, they're absolutely infatuated with and have this religiosity affiliation with that music. And if they think that you're doing something that doesn't sound like what they're normally hearing in that kind of environment, they think that you're, how dare you? What are you doing? It's like, I'm doing my job, which is to improvise, according to me, and being respectful and try to kick the can down the field a little more. You don't like it, why don't you listen to the record? Listen to the record over and over again in the privacy of your own house. And what's amazing, too, about that, too, is that, you listen to Live at Fillmore East, I should say. It's brilliant. I love that. It was one of the greatest records of all time, and I played along with that thing. I was like, God, how could these guys be that good? Those solos are perfect. And then you listen to all the concerts from that weekend, and you realize they cherry-picked that stuff, edited it down. I mean, and that's fine. Everyone should do that because no one's perfect. But when you quantize that stuff in a nice, digestible thing, and you hear that, people have in their mind, like, well, this is the greatest live band of all time. And they were one of them. But at the same time, it was packaged in such a way where you have the perception that that was the way it was every night. Every moment of every night was filled with that unparalleled glory. And that's just not the way it works, folks. So, anyways. Listen, I want to talk about something before we ran out of time. This guitar that I have right here, people ask about it. This is one of my new Reverend Gristle Master or Gristle STs. All right, and I love this green because I used to love those Burns guitars from England, and this kind of has that retro vibe to it, and it's so amazing. I'll post videos playing this guitar, and people are like, oh my God, I love that green. It's the most awesome thing I've ever seen. Then other people are like, that's the grossest guitar I've ever seen. It's so ugly. It's like, isn't it a great world? You can either like stuff or not. But one of the weird things is that, the Reverend guys are like, hey, I'm like, dude, Tom Bukovac got one. Uncle Larry, he loves it. He's been playing it. He's been using it on sessions. I use it on all kinds of, people have been wanting to get them. And then I'm talking to the guy from Reverend. He's like, I got a bunch of those green guitars. And because, dealers, there's certain dealers, like my buddy Steve from Wildwood, he's like, I don't like green guitars. And that's it. So they weren't available. So I was like, you know what? How about I just sell them through my website? So we're trying this out. It's a limited edition. I've got 6 of these guitars that just were delivered. And what we thought we would do is we try a package thing and see if it catches on. It's going to be the guitar. I'm going to do a personalized video. So whoever buys it, I'll say, hey, so-and-so, here's your guitar. I'll play it in all the different positions, kind of give you a little guided tour of what it sounds like. It's going to come with a Gristle King pedal. I'll sign the guitar. The Gristle King pedal is coming with it. Little heat pedal. Comes with a case. You'll get 3 of my little Gristle picks, which are my, they only make the orange ones for me at Jim Dunlap. They're the Prime Tone 3, 1.4 millimeter. And then one of their snap-on cool, actually my buddy Brian Kehoe made me a capo that said Gristle on it. And I go, can I get these to sell? He's like, absolutely. So we're going to include one of those as well. So that whole package is going to be available, but only in the continental United States are we going to do free shipping. And it's not going to be, we're not going to do shipping to any other places. So shipping is included. So you get the guitar, all that stuff, personalized video for $2,700, which I think is fair considering the amount of time I'm going to put into.
Manifesto.
Oh, and you get a copy of the signed manifesto on the parchment paper that looks like one of the scrolls. So, we've got physical copies printed out. I'm going to sign those as well. And there is a link that has just been posted, and it's just greghook.com/manifesto.html that was just posted in the feed there. So if you're interested, we're only going to do it for 72 hours, and there's only 6 available. And so, as I said, I'm going to do a serial number video on each one. I'll say what the serial number is of this specific guitar you bought, and I'll say, hey, this is for Joe Blow. And then you get all that other swag included, including shipping, everything for $2,700. So keep that in mind. I wish that guitar was available in lefty. Yeah, Jake, that's one of the hassles with my signature model guitars is that I love the Fishman pickups. that we've developed for all three guitars, the Gristle Master, the Gristle 90, and the Gristle ST. But because of the way they're made and the way that they interface with the other controls, we haven't been able to do a left-hand set yet. So at some point, we'll do that. The guitar would be no problem. The guitar we could do today and make it a lefty, but it's the pickups that are the problem, and the pickups are a big selling point of these guitars, because I worked on signature sets of pickups with Fishman that are on these guitars that come free of charge. Mr. Brad says, Black Hawk Suite is a good example of a nice solo arc. Well, thank you. You know, it was kind of funny because back in the day, that was a record from 1996 called Double the Gristle. And I remember doing that solo, and I remember specifically, you know, making it real sparse and just kind of being vibey. And I remember after the point, I was buddies with Jimmy Herring at that point, and I'm hearing these solos he was doing with, you know, I was buddies with T. Lavitz, and I remember we were listening to the track, and these guys were like chops monsters, and I thought, maybe I should have added more. And then Rich was like, no, musically, that's all that needs to be done. So thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm glad it stood the test of time. What gauge guitar strings do I use? I use 10 through 46. At one point, I did switch to 11s, but because I go out to Wildwood and play all those guitars for those videos, they all have 10s on them. I was still doing a bunch of Fender stuff at that point in time, and I'd fly overseas, and they would provide a guitar for me, or I'd take guitars off the wall. They all had 10s. So I thought, you know what? If they got 10s on them, I'm just gonna, stick to that. I even put 10s on my Gibson scale. It's a little too easy to bend on those, but it doesn't take me very long to just kind of, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Yeah, whatever. Okay, because I was looking at one of the questions here. And the question was, what are some strategies to develop tone from hands versus relying too much on pedals? What I would do is I would, it's any number of different things, but just keep it simple. I mean, you know, I think most people, especially in these days with the amount of videos out there with everyone saying, oh, if you just get this pedal or this guitar, and people saying, well, in order to have real tone, you got to play with real pickups such as this or this guitar and that. None of that, I mean, don't get me wrong. When you play really high-end stuff, you can hear a difference. There's no doubt. But 99% of the tone is coming from your hands. That's one of the things on the list. I think it's the last thing on the list.
Why don't you show the manifesto?
Yeah, the manifesto.
This is the physical manifesto.
This is the physical manifestation of the manifesto. There it is. Da-da-da!
Yes. It will be signed.
It will be signed in all of its glory. But on number 11 here is, tone is 95% hands and attitude. If you don't like your tone, don't buy something, practice something. Your hands are the biggest tone pedal you will ever own. Listen, I'm not saying buying gear isn't fun, and I do it all the time, and I've done it, and I get obsessed about guitars, and I can't stop thinking about them. And I'll look at my phone, and right now it's a Les Paul Custom. I want a black Les Paul Custom. Should I get a 3-pickup one? I've got a Joe Bonamassa 3-pickup one that Fishman put special pickups in it, and I love it, but I'm like, yeah, but it's not a good. And it just toys in my brain. Should I get one? Because there's something that customs sound different from standards. They just do. They got this buttery tone. They look cool. Can't stop thinking about it. But you know what? I haven't bought one because they're expensive as shit. And the ones I want, it's like, oh, do I want to spend this money on this, or do I want to pay off the Gristle missile? I'm going to go with the latter. But anyway, so I would say it's all about listening to yourself. I mean, again, not from a narcissistic point of view, but record yourself and hear how you're playing. When you really press down on a note, it's not pressing down so much of the note. Leaning in with the pick. Playing lightly with the pick. Practice plugged in more often than not. And record yourself doing it, trying different nuances, and then listen back to that stuff and go, well, I kind of like it when I do this or versus that. That self-adjudication thing is the only way that you're going to be able to judge the difference. And then listen to other people, listen to their tone and then try to emulate it. And again, record yourself And, go straight into an amp. One of the things is about amplifiers is when you play along or when you play an amp that's cranked, it behaves in a certain way that just sounds better recording-wise, sounds better live, and so on and so forth. I mean, it just does. But for live performance, when you need to, get different volumes and have different effects and so on and so forth, that's why a lot of people play different rigs live than they do in the studio, because you can't always dime an amp live, getting that power amp section roaring. So you use a different rig for live performance than you might use in the studio. But again, it's always good to record that different stuff and just be apprised of all the different variances of how things sound, and that just comes from experience. And yes, you can, you can watch endless videos online of people going, tone woods don't matter, or we did a video where we took the same, we did the different wood, and you're listening to this video and they're trying to tell you that tone wood doesn't matter, and you're like, well, maybe the way that you're testing it doesn't matter. You can't really hear it, but it feels different. And when you're playing live, the feel thing is, and how your hands respond to something is a totally different thing. So for me, it's like having played thousands and thousands of guitars at Wildwood, one right after another. Oh, this one's ash and maple. This one's alder and rosewood. This one's alder and maple. This one's ash and rosewood. You hear the difference between the different guitars. So, and that just comes with experience. So, again, all the information online is not infallible, including what I'm saying right now. But I hope you realize that what I'm saying is these are my views and what I've experienced. Other people have other experiences. You can do it on your own. But, my experience dictates X, Y, and Z. And I am thoroughly of the mindset of, at any point yesterday, 10 minutes ago or now, I could have been full of shit later when I realized that, that wasn't quite right. But again, my intention is always to give my best and to understand things as thoroughly as I can in the moment, and I've done the homework before I open up my damn pie pouch. Pie pouch? I meant pie hole. Although this is getting a little pouchy, to be honest with you. I gotta lose some weight. Anyways. Questions out there. We're running to the end of our... Boy, that 2 hours goes by fast, doesn't it? It's so crazy. Listen, we're also going to send out a... we're going to construct some kind of a survey thing, because we'd be very interested to see if you enjoyed this, what you enjoyed about it, what we could work on next time, because we're going to do this, when we're not on the road, we're going to try to do this about once a month. So we'd love your feedback. And again... opinions are what you paid for them, but we're paying for this opinion. So you're paying for this opinion, and we're listening to it. So we would like to know if you enjoyed it, what we could work on next time, and so on and so forth. Questions, if only I had enough times. The scrolls foretold. What are some strategies to develop a tone from hands? Although we think we just asked that. We just did that one. I was told a long time ago to practice without an amp, get the tone between your fingers and the strings, then add an amp and add the effects. I would say that I'll put it this way, and again, this is just my experience thing. I had a buddy of mine in college, and I was playing all the time, and I was plugging in all the time. I was playing with combos and so on and so forth. He practiced all the time, unplugged, on an electric guitar, unplugged. And then when you would plug in, it sounded like he was the Tin Man. You know what I mean? Because his sense of dynamics and everything, it wasn't what it sounds like when you're plugged in. Because when you're playing a solid body guitar unplugged, you can get the mechanics of what you're doing, and you can work on the roundness of the tone and so on and so forth. But it's different when you're plugged in. So if you're planning on playing a solid body guitar plugged in, you have to dedicate a large amount of time with the guitar actually being plugged in. Again, you can work on the mechanics of muscle memory and so on and so forth with the guitar unplugged. And another thing to respond to as well is that you have to, if you plan on standing up while you're playing, if you practice sitting down all the time and then you get to a gig and you're standing up and you're like, why can't I play any of the shit that I just learned in my room for the last several months? It's because the distribution of weight is different, how you're approaching the pick, hitting the strings, all that kind of stuff. So it's important to spend X amount of time standing and playing, or at least having the guitar with the strap at the same place, if you will, on your body that it will be when you're standing up. And so that's important because I've learned that the hard way as well. There you go. Let's see. I got the bundle. Looking forward to getting my hands on it. Awesome. Thank you. We appreciate it. I think it's going to be a winner chicken dinner. No, again, I'm going to be loving doing those videos. So, the videos for the guitar. So once I see your information, your full name on there, we'll get that video out. Serial number video. We'll get that all rocking. Mr. Brad says, practice clean through an amp like Tomo said. Tomo's a good man. Tomo knows what he's talking about. And I love that Tomo guy. He just radiates enthusiasm for music. And of course, he's an awesome guitar player. But he's just got such a good vibe. I got lots of time for Tomo. But that's a good point. Yeah, practice clean, as well as practice with you got to practice with all the above. Getting your overdrive tone, how you approach the guitar. It's amazing. You can hand your rig, like I just did this the other day. Someone plays my rig, it's going to sound different from the way I play it. Everyone's tone is different. And but that you work on that, and it's done by self-adjudication and being cognizant of the fact that unplugged versus plugged is two different things. And then acoustically, it's the same thing. You play an acoustic guitar, and you want to play acoustic guitar. It's good to self-adjudicate because that's really the test when you're playing acoustic guitar, getting your dynamics right, making sure the other strings aren't going, getting a nice round tone, your intonation, all that kind of stuff is all good. What's that?
Can we play another one?
Let's see. It's 1 o'clock. We're going to leave you with one more tune. Doesn't matter if we go over a little bit, does it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay. We're going to do one more tune for you. We thank you so much for participating with this. You've totally made it worth our while. We hope we made it worth your while. And again, if you're interested in that package, we're going to have a limited time on that. We'll be doing 72 hours.
72 hours.
So that bundle is going to be available for that. And, the guitars may be available on the site at some other point in time, but this is a bundle price, and the individual video, as far as the personalized video with your name, is something that's going to be unique to this particular package. So there you go. Someone asked, will we be spreading some gristle in the Netherlands in 2026? We certainly hope so. Suggestion, leave the comments off for the first 1.5 hours, then take questions. You could get a lot further into the nuts and bolts of examples. Good, Tom. Thank you. We like that kind of feedback. All right, we're going to leave you with a little jam. Thank you so much, folks. Take it easy, but take it.
Yeah, buddy.
All right. Let's see. Let's do, we were kind of messing around with. This is an old tune of mine. Actually, yeah, we all worried on this one. This is a tune, what do we call this one? Succulent. That's right. Succulent Chinese meal. so much, folks. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time.